They'll blanket you in Wi-Fi and profit off the radiation. Congregation collecting the people for that Satan. I keeps it blazing, cause I can read between the lines. I ain't blind, we unwind what they're really saying. Genetically modify what you're tasting. Don't need that college promise, so now you live up in your mom's basement. Redesign time so your mind is always wasted. Programmed to crave the basics. Keep the beta in stasis. Pay the state, kid. You're in debt for being born. Messengers are more than just the price for being warned. Don't be alarmed, disconnect from their machinations. Stop subscribing to the folly of all nations. Bone breaking ain't the answer, cause they seek the ownership of souls. Spread the seeds and watch them grow. Break the chains of control. Break the chains of control.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. Welcome to your Tuesday night edition of Rogue Ways. It is the last episode before I take a little break for Thanksgiving. At least I think so. If I, feel like it, maybe I'll hop on and say what's up to y'all if you're all going to be around. But otherwise, I wouldn't see you again until Sunday. But this is another Bright Winter installment. We are going to talk about all of the ways not to resist what's happening, because resistance is futile, but all the ways in which we are, and many people are all around the world, creating the world that they want to see. Some of it looks a little bit like resistance, and that's okay. I'm not going to judge anyone. But we also want to talk about that, how literally resistance is futile. And the best analogy this was hammered into my head in a very physical, visceral way when I was abducted by a man at night one time, and it was terrifying and horrible. It was as horrible as it sounds when you say that you were abducted by a man. This man came up behind me and grabbed me, and I thought it was my friend, because why would somebody be grabbing me from behind? If you've heard me tell this story before, sorry, you'll just love to hear it again, right? And so I thought haha, someone's hugging me from behind, I guess. And, pretty quickly became apparent that wasn't happening, because they weren't letting me turn around or get out of their grips or anything like that. And it was a crowded night. It was right outside a really hot and lit bar. And so people were everywhere. But I pretty quickly realized this person was grabbing me to not let me go. And then I realized I was in danger. It takes a while to set in. I don't know if you've ever been attacked or whatever, but it takes a minute for your brain to realize that something bad is happening. At least it has for me the few times things like this have happened to me. And he started dragging me down the street. And so I quickly called out to the people around me, and I cried for help, and I screamed for help, and I yelled for help, and none of them did anything. And that's its own story. We've talked about it before. If you watched any of the psychological sort of analyses episodes that we did on Rogue Ways. And so that's its own thing about groupthink and crowds. Because no one responded, everyone thought it was okay to not respond. And so then I was just being dragged down the street by a man I didn't know, away from everyone and into the dark. So at this point, I was trying, full adrenaline. But this guy was, I don't know, maybe twice my size, buff. And I'm just me, just at the time, especially just a pretty weak, college girl. I was probably 28. I don't really know how old I was. Have to think about it far too long. Probably about 28, actually. 26 maybe. And so I was fighting. This is resistance. You're fighting. All my adrenaline, all my body, every muscle I had, I was sore the next day, right? This is all happening in a really short time, by the way, too. Anyway, so I'm fighting. I realize I can't even budge an inch, not even a tiny millimeter. I couldn't even begin to break this grip around me. And so I paused for a second, and I was I have no hope. I have no way of getting out of this. This is where I feel we're at collectively right now. We're fighting this juggernaut of bullshit, draconian, lockdown, mask, fake COVID, whatever, real COVID, whatever, it doesn't matter, but really, really overbearing governmental clampdown on our entire world. And we're fighting it, and that doesn't actually work. Just like it didn't work for me to fight this guy who had grabbed me and was dragging me down the street. What did work, what I remembered in a came back to mind from who knows how many years before, when I was barely even paying attention to this episode of Oprah, which I don't watch and never had watched, but I happened to be watching because my very lovely friend Kelly loved this show, and I was hanging out with her and probably criticizing her for watching it. So here's another lesson not to judge. And yet they had on whoever, and they were teaching women how to get away from attackers, this exact situation. And I remembered from that long ago, even though at the time I wasn't like, remember this, but your brain remembers everything, very luckily for us. And so I remembered that you become a dead weight. If you can become a dead weight, even somebody who is ridiculously stronger than you will drop you. And that'll be your one chance to get away. So I did that. I remembered to do it. And I've said it before, but you actually have to be prepared for this, because becoming a dead weight is actually completely opposite to everything in our nature, especially in this moment where you're thinking you should fight for your life. And what you're actually going to do is literally just go limp and dead. And yet that is exactly what worked. And I went limp and dead, and that's when he dropped me, and that's when I ran away, and I barely got away. He broke my purse as I was running away. That's how close it was. And I got into a bar, and there's this whole other story that goes after that, because he was not happy that I got away. But that was not resistance, right? That was actually complete letting go of the situation. Complete letting go and complete release is what got me through that situation. And I like this metaphor for what we're facing right now, because resistance, it's not bad. I'm not going to judge it. It may actually give more power to the attackers than not. And there may be other ways to do things. But it's part of our Bright Winter. We're going to look at all of these ways that we can build something else besides what they want us to build, and what their energy is moving towards. We're giving our energy to ourselves and to the things that we want to create. And that's what Bright Winter is all about. We're creating our own brightest winter. They can do whatever they want. If they want to make a dark winter for themselves, that's what they can do. We're making the bright winter. So cheers to Bright Winter. And yeah, we are going to talk more about that. How to build flourishing instead of resistance. Surrendering is very hard, but very powerful. That's absolutely true, Jenny B. What's up in the chat to Sue Finelli, Regan Rempel, Candace C, Truth is Alchemy, all you guys, it's very good to see you. Trey Clark Theories, nice to see you as well. It's so good to have you back. It's been a while. Nachiketa's in the house. What's up, Nachiketa? And Gordon Hamill's here. What's up, Gordon? I know that Gordon is, I think, planning on possibly going to the 3 days of brightness retreat. I'm very excited about that. That's coming up December 21st, 22nd, 23rd. The last episode we did was about those 3 days of darkness. You know, how this grand conjunction and all the energy that brings is coming right when the sun's at its very lowest energy, and will be that way for 3 days. And this is known as the 3 days of darkness in some circles. And we talked about how we want to keep ourselves the brightest during that time. And so we're doing this 3 days of brightness retreat. During those days, it is going to be about 8 hours a day or so with breaks, hour lunch break, 15-minute breaks here and there. We do have some awesome presenters that are going to be there. They're all presenting along the same theme. It's going to be all about how we keep our light bright inside, spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, all of that, and in our inner world and our outer world. And so we have people who are going to be leading us in various sort of spiritual knowledge and teachings. Really cool teachers. Alan Sisko's been on the show many times. You've seen how deep his wisdom goes. So he's going to be bringing us much of that and practices that we can directly apply. We have Catherine O'Shea is going to be there, and you have seen also on the show how she has a very clear spiritual channel and ability to communicate with not just animals, but all kinds of beings, but mostly animals. Is what she really, really loves to do. So that comes through a lot. And she's going to be with us and bringing us much of that sort of philosophy and experience. And then we also are going to have Harmony Fronterhouse, who is a expert gardener, permaculture. She's a garden sprite, basically, and she's awesome, and she's so knowledgeable, and she's going to bring us how to take care of our insides and our outsides and our spiritual life through, various types of permaculture, philosophy, and gardening. So all kinds of stuff. That's just like a taster. That's just 3 people who are presenting, and there's so many other things. If you go to the site on rogueways.org, you can see where you can read all about it. And to clarify, somebody asked the best question today. One of the people who is coming was saying, I don't know if I can be there for that whole time, but I really want to be. And, it's going to be a crazy time of year. And I was like, oh yeah, I should have clarified. We're definitely going to be recording this for people who are there, but have to like step out for a few hours, but want to not miss something. And so, for a few days afterwards, you'll be able to go back to the recordings and see what you missed. So don't worry about that. That's cool. Come to what you can, And if you want to, if it somehow works to like split it with somebody, if you want to like go in on it together and they can be there when you're not or whatever, you could also do something like that. It's just up to you. But did this just happen? No, that was many years ago. I was 26. That was a long time ago. Jesus Christ, R.L. Gill. Meth is a dark, dark drug. I know because I did it for far too long. And had very, very similarly dark experiences. Luckily, I was not stabbed. I can't believe that. I'm very sorry that happened to you. I'm not laughing because I think in any way that's funny. I'm laughing because it was sudden, and that's how life is. Yeah, but that true surrendering, and it's not just surrendering that I want to emphasize. It's the not focusing on the struggle and the fight back. It's focusing on what you want and what you can do within yourself that doesn't rely on any sort of outward circumstance at all. And that's what I really want to emphasize today as well. Flat Earthship Bear is here. What's up? Nice to see you. I miss a lot of you guys because I'm not on Facebook anymore, really. It's nice to see you here. You can also go to rogue.locals.com and join the crew. We've got an awesome community already going there, and it's going to get better and better. What's up, Logan Yates? Truth is Alchemy, I think I said hi to you. Marty Leeds sent you. Good. Marty's an awesome guy. Yeah. I don't know who Jimmy Church is, but I'm glad he's also on the same. I've noticed it's not just the Rogue Warriors who are on the Bright Winter Kick. It's also a lot of different alternative media creators and content creators are also focusing on this, what we can do and what is good and what's happening. Again, we never want to ignore reality. We're not just like head in the sky, like feet off the ground, like la la la, everything's perfect. We're just saying you can control yourself and you can create your own life. And that doesn't mean nothing bad is ever going to happen in the world or even to you necessarily. It just means you're doing everything you can to not live in that shit that they're throwing at you, just like fling it right off. So, Jeff, I missed you. What's up, Jeff? Yeah, so again, hopefully all of you guys are going to check out the 3 days of Brightness Retreat and head over to that. Again, there's a massive discount if you are just a supporter in rogue.locals.com. So if you go sign up, supporting is as low as $2 a month, as high as whatever you want to give, whatever you feel like Rogue Ways is worth, then you can do anything you want. And any level of supporter gets that coupon code that gets you a 21% magical solstice discount for that retreat. So go take advantage of that. I know that many people are. At first, I was going to make the retreat only for supporters. Then I realized this should be for whoever wants to be there. Whoever wants to create and be in that bright, high energy space for those 3 days where it's otherwise going to be pretty strange energy, let's say. Maybe energy we don't want to connect to. We want to create our own. Then that's who it's open for. So anyways, let's just get into it. Mateo is here. What's up, Mateo? All right, so again, the site, rogueways.org or corysharman.com. You can get all kinds of stuff here. There's all kinds of articles and poems and different philosophical views of various things. And all kinds of places you can go up here at the top. But I always like to point out the things that you can access for yourself if you're into it, like the Organite, which is a very powerful method of protecting yourself and keeping high energy around you. There's all kinds of pendants and plaques in there. There's Rogue gear. There's all kinds of clothes and phone cases and things with the Rogue Ways logo on it. My books that are signed copies that you can only get here and for cheaper than anywhere else. You can also get them on Amazon. They're just more expensive and not signed. Is here along with some of the art that I make. And the classes and tarot section is where you can access one-on-one or group support from me to you. It's not even really from me. Most of it's from your higher self, higher power. I'm just a lucky conduit for you, but there's all kinds of stuff here. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you can find the 3 days of brightness retreat. So that is where you can go to check that out. It is in the video description as well. You can also go to rogue.locals.com, like I said, sign up for free and just be a member, or you can also become a supporter for $2 a month or more. Whatever you think Rogue is worth, like I said, there's all kinds of stuff. Free blessings still for supporters. That's going to come down someday, but not yet. Given so many blessings, and it's so awesome. And you can read some of the... I don't want to scroll too far because I think I'm logged in like I am a supporter, and I don't want to give away the coupon code for people who aren't supporters. But there's lots of people who have shared their personal experiences of their blessings in here. So if you wanted to read about that, you can also see that there. And otherwise, we're going to jump into it. Chuck used to have a lot of organite. Well, Chuck, you should maybe buy some more. Oh, and by the way, fantastic Christmas gift. Already pointed that out before, but just in case you missed it, who wouldn't want an organite pendant? Even if they didn't know. If there's someone who you like worry about because they're like not paying attention to any of this stuff and you just wanted them to have an extra sort of like blessing in their life or whatever, you could buy them an organite pendant for Christmas. Mahadharmapala is in the chat. Very nice to see you here. One of our wonderful teachers and an awesome presenter at the 3 Days of Brightness retreat. Okay, so we're going to look at some of the good things, or at least slightly good things. Not everyone is going to have the resistance isn't best, although it's better than nothing. And that, creating your own reality is best viewpoint. But some people, at least, are going to maybe do some things to resist this worldwide takeover that seems to be happening. And this article is just about, Joe Biden's coming into office allegedly. And so if that happens, it's going to even add force to the reaction of the people who are against COVID-19. They've really framed this as like a, people who don't see the big deal, don't think we should be locking down, don't really think there's a need for masks, and, rational people, in my opinion, are somehow just Trump supporters and everyone else is a Biden supporter. Biden was very vocal about how he wants to do the full draconian lockdown for at least 6 weeks or more, and, got to get the vaccine before anyone can even step outside their house and all this stuff that apparently not many people who supported him knew about, which is an amazing feat of media blindness. But they framed it like that. And so it's not true at all, but that's how people are seeing it. So they feel like, especially when people like Jim Jordan, a Republican, are saying lockdowns, masks, police, curfews, what about freedom? And none of the Democrats are. They're like, even more so framing it as the left and right paradigm. But it is kind of nice that there are some people in the public eye who are questioning it and are saying no. And it does happen to tend along those lines. A lot of Republican-controlled states have a lot less lockdowns, and a lot of Republican politicians are the ones to question it. And vice versa, the Democrats tend not to. So it's interesting. At least there are some, like we said, in the public eye. Because again, we got to look at things from the most common denominator. The normies are looking at this like this. This is how they're seeing these things. This is how they're experiencing these things, and they haven't seen through it yet. But it is nice that there are at least some people. There's this guy down in Brazil, and he also doesn't think we should lock down. And he's he's the president. He's pretty powerful. So that's kind of hopeful as well. I don't know. A lot of these places are just so conflicted. There's so many contradictions, and there's so much that's not good at all. And this is why the left-right paradigm always fails. It's never accurate, and it's never serving us because if it has to be left and right, the left and the right both suck balls and don't meet our needs. They don't support us, not entirely, at least. Again, this is why I like the 4-quadrant political spectrum. You have authoritarianism and libertarianism on the x-axis, and on the y-axis, sorry, reverse that. On the y-axis, on the x-axis, you have fiscal conservatism and fiscal liberalism. And then you can be any combination instead of just, it's a giant sphere. But it is nice because they're showing all these people around the world who are standing up and protesting, albeit in masks. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people think they have to do that. Again, we're looking at it from like the normie point of view. They think they have to do that in order to keep criticism from falling onto the protesters, which we'll see later why that's pointless. But, it's not stupid. It makes sense why people would do that. It just, if you think even harder about it, you understand that you don't necessarily have to. But it's nice. There are a lot of people around the world, including leaders, who think that we should not be locking down and should not be this draconian, and that things should not follow the New World Order agenda and Agenda 21 and the Great Reset, which is nice. It's cool. We have some people who are at least on that side. Remember, our allies can be anywhere. Rand Paul vows to resist Biden's forever lockdowns. So that's cool, but again, it's still framed in the paradigm that doesn't serve us. And there are some interesting criticisms of Rand and Ron Paul and how they, aren't as cool as they might seem upon first glance. And whatever, we could look into that, but we don't really need to. We just know that it's not going to work because everybody looks at them like they're insane. So again, cool that they're doing it, cool that they're saying something, and cool that there's that word again, resisting. But probably in the end not gonna be too effective. It's almost like these two play the part of the only sane people so that everyone else can point to them and be like, look at these freaks, sane people are horrible, or whatever. So yeah. But there's a word out there about resistance. I don't know, you could look at that as good. There's the question about whether or not it's appropriate to shut down. Okay, so that's like the lowest level. This is like the shallowest view of the normiest way to look at things. This, however, is really possibly, it was possibly. So I was like, oh, the CPC published something about why lockdowns won't save us. That's kind of amazing that the mainstream is saying something like that. And this recently, October 24th, 2020. But once I clicked on it, the word alone popped up. So in the search results, I was like, oh, cool. And I clicked on it, I was like, oh, why they alone won't save us. So they are actually pro lockdowns. But it is pointing out something that is true nonetheless, which is one of the heartening things that we are looking at in this episode. That is a trend that's picking up, which is that lockdowns are getting old. It says lockdowns can control outbreaks of COVID-19, which they can't. There's no evidence for that. It's a patently false statement. At best, it is conjecture. But, he continues, only as long as the public tolerates them. And that is the truth. This is probably the only true sentence in this entire article. Sorry, the only true, like, partial sentence fragment. But if people only knew that, right? All you have to do is not tolerate it. You don't have to kill anyone, shoot anyone, burn stores down, riot. You don't even have to protest. You just have to not do it. Just don't play the game. Just like becoming a deadweight when some guy's dragging you down the street. You just don't do it. I don't know what that weird sound was, but I think the NSA just arrived on the scene. Everybody say hi to our NSA agent. I forgot what we named him. Let's make it a girl now. Let's what should her name be? You rogue warriors in the chat, tell me what the name of our female NSA agent is. I'll pick the best one. So, yeah. They're just like, oh, it's daunting to lock down again. Not because it'll crush the entire economy and just like kill so many uncountable people now, immediately, and into the ongoing future, which is an indeterminate amount that we could never measure through all kinds of things, which we'll get into in a few moments. Not because of any of that very real, horrifying suffering that is being caused. It's daunting because there are people who won't easily go along with it. That's the daunting part to this person. Karen, good call. Mahadharma Paula. Ooh, Chad was our last one. Thank you for reminding me, Chad, Gordon. Yes, Karen works. Karen, gotta be Karen. All right, we're going with Karen. Karen is our NSA agent who just arrived. She's like, no, I've been here all along. I wasn't late. I swear. She's smoking cigarettes and like hacking into a pillow. Oh, it's a continuing risk to essential workers on the front lines. I'm like, dude, it's a cold. Maybe you haven't noticed yet, but the death tally this year is lower than 2018. And if it's not lower than 2019, that's just pure chance. Basically, it's exactly average. Whew. Be out there on that front line, just walking around in the world. It's like people want to like live in those suits, you know, in like various anime and shit where it's just like a mech suit so they can just like power through the world without any danger. It's amazing. It's amazing. I love that we have, I don't love it. It's absolutely atrocious, but it's amazing that the whole world has been controlled through the simple fear of death. Anyway, it's daunting also because to keep society functioning while we shut down everything normal is hard. It's hard work. It's like George Bush says, it's hard work. But experts, because it takes an expert to acknowledge that there's a growing resistance to some of the restrictions. Like, dude, there's been a resistance all along. There's been, and it's growing though, and that's totally true. So, not wrong. But this is the part that I hate. Okay. That I would love for them to completely admit how manipulative and demeaning and degrading and condescending this sentence is. It highlights a need to manage the public mood as the pandemic rages on. First of all, it's not a pandemic. Second of all, manage the public mood. Manage your mood because you're just a little sheep in a little pen who some person or group of people or the media, who knows who they're talking about, needs to manage you, especially down to the detail of your mood. You are a sheep and your mood needs to be managed. I mean, literally, you do this to animals. You're like, oh, they're getting all uppity. They're like getting broody or whatever, like whatever thing they're doing I don't want. Then you give them like the right foods, the right whatever, the right stimulus to make them do what you want instead. Are you an animal in a cage? I'm not. I don't need management. Thank you very much. I am a free woman. Anyway, the term lockdown is politically charged right now. Like, right? Only right now? Was there a time where lockdown just felt real nice and peachy to everyone? Oh yes, I love the word lockdown. Thank you. Like, no, I don't think that that's just politically charged right now. This term, this is real people saying this. It's crazy. This is what Michael Osterholm says. This term has become equated with so many bad things that no one really understands what it means. Everybody understands what it means. Everybody. There's no one who doesn't know what the word lockdown means. I can't understand. I just have to laugh because it's so ridiculous. Anyway. Oh my God. So I started this looking for the good. I'm just showing you this article to show just how ridiculous these people are. This is a challenge for public health officials because they can't convince everyone that the cold that doesn't kill anyone is killing everyone so that they can steal their entire livelihood from them. Like, what a challenge for you. You poor thing. Such a challenging period. We have to convince people who are fatigued to stick to sustainable habits. You're like, it's literally not sustainable. It's literally killing everyone. You fucking retard. Good Christ. I don't know, man. If we could just like settle things with like katanas and a fucking duel, like I would learn how to sword and I would fight these people. But that's not what we can do. It's pandemic fatigue. Oh, it's not pandemic fatigue anymore. It's pandemic anger. And now they're gonna stamp me with the term pandemic anger. I suffer from pandemic anger. I can't handle it. They think it's a hoax. Well, like, if it's not a hoax, it's still not a big enough deal to shut things down. It doesn't really matter if it's a hoax or not. That whole argument is totally moot. It's cool, talk about it. I don't care. I'm just saying, in the end, it doesn't matter, because all that really matters is my economy shouldn't be shut down. I shouldn't be disallowed from going to public places or leaving my home at any time of any year ever. The whole time I'm alive, this should be true. Should never be abrogated. But it's raw selfishness. Just raw. If it were cooked, it'd be okay. But it's raw. It's so dumb. Oh my god, look at all these idiots. I can't help it. I judge people who act like idiots. I don't even feel bad for them. They're just like, yay, I get to be on a TV thing because I'm standing in a circle with my mask. Okay. I'm calming down. Anyway, it is a question of public tolerance. That part is true. All these places around the world actually are having, groups getting together just like this one. Look at how many people aren't wearing masks in this one. That makes me so happy. There you go. That's exactly how, if we're going to protest this like this, which, that's not necessarily resistance in the term that in the way that I was using it before, where you're like fighting and they're using it against you. It could be. I'm not opposed to it. I would actually go to one if there was one in my city. I'm no longer organizing things like that because I don't actually think that it's that helpful. But if I were going to go, I would go maskless and I would celebrate all the maskless people. So it is nice. Australia also has had many huge, protests as well. And Max Egan is going to come on again soon and tell us all about those because he's involved in many of them as well. So that's going to be exciting. That's part of our Bright Winter continuance. I'm serious about it. We're doing Bright Winter all the way through to the 3 Days of Brightness event. This is the train we're on, you guys. But yeah, so we're delving a bit into the negative here, but we're always bringing it back to the brightness. We don't want to pretend. We want to be aware and connected to reality. DS in the chat points out, my only friends and family members who are getting sick are the ones who constantly wear a mask and spray disinfectant on all their surfaces. That's because, not that you don't know, it's just a great point, and I'll just explain to anyone who might not know, that is because masks literally they're moist, they're made of cloth or paper sometimes, they're both very, very unintelligent choices. They get covered in your exhaling. There's condensation. There's moisture. It's getting trapped in there. It's a moist surface now. I don't know if you knew this, but, if these bacteria, viruses, and other sort of pathogens do exist, which I think they do, and whether you think they don't do or not, something exists in there that grows and makes people ill. So that gets trapped in there. It now multiplies quickly because it has a damp, moist space that's uninterrupted and that it can just grow. So it grows and grows and grows. Now you're breathing that in all day long. You're like wiping it all over your face. Like it can't help but then go inside of you. So I'm like, my mind is blown that there are people who are not sick who have been wearing these things. Their immune systems are amazing. This is a totally disgusting, filthy diaper you're just holding up against your breathing holes. For whatever reason, you've decided that you should do that. Whether it's fear, whether you need to for your job or whatever it might be. I know there's reasons, why people who see through it might do it. But no matter what way you cut it, it's hurting you. It's harming you. And this is why I say 100% of humans have a reason to have a medical exemption. Yeah. So yeah, they're getting sick from that, but they're also getting sick because spraying disinfectant everywhere is actually, as we've said for years, we were actually trying to get people to stop using disinfectants before this happened. We had this whole thing where we've been talking for years about how we use too many antibiotics and too many disinfectants and it makes superbugs. So then you're like creating that too. The ones that survive all of that cleansing over and over and over again and then get inside of you, like they're the really strong ones. You made them strong. The hand sanitizer like literally strips all the protection off of you. It strips the oils that are protectant and it strips your natural biome, which is protectant. You're literally making it more likely that you'll get sick. 100%, not even exaggerating, 100% of what they have advised us to do is what will make us sick. You all know this. I know I'm preaching to the choir. 100% of it. Not leaving your house, it makes people sick, makes them depressed. Depression lowers your immune system. Being terrified of death lowers your immune system. Fear lowers your immune system. Not being able to go to the gym lowers your immune system. Not being able to see your family for Thanksgiving, again, depression, anxiety lowers your immune system, but also touch increases your immune system. Eye contact increases your, talking face to face with a human increases your immune response. All those things gone. Not being able to go to church or other places where you gather with people who you love lowers your immune system. Everything. Don't go outside. The sun increases your immune system. Like, it's insane. Okay, I'll stop. I'm about to read The Watchmen, Matt Feinberg, but I haven't watched it. I'm finally reading it. Like I'm gonna read the whole thing. There's a lot of comments. I don't know if I can read them all, but I'll try to check with a few of them. Yeah, there's so many people who really are smart. It's a good point. Sue says that there's so many smart people who are doing this. I even saw, I think I showed you guys, but it was like mask refresher spray. Oh God. Okay, so you have this filthy fucking thing and you realize how filthy it is. So instead of being like, I'm not going to put this filthy piece of shit on my fucking face, you're like, I'll spray it with chemicals. And then put it on your face. Like, what the fuck? People are doing that. I can't. But this is like, I get to this every once in a while where I'm like, we should just pause and be grateful that any humans exist at all. Because, holy crap, there should be 10 billion times where we just all destroyed ourselves out of sheer, just like perplexing idiocy. Hasn't happened yet. That's the grace of God. We're very lucky people. The choir needs the sermon too, DS says. That's not a bad point. And I need to let it out, so it's good for all of us. I love it. Alan says, at work, an old guy came in and had a pair of purple underwear on his face as his mask. I've been wanting to do that. I'm like, if I have to wear a mask someday, I'm just going to do like a G-string over my mouth hole. And it's exactly as effective as your shit, except I can still not get sick with it, which will be nice. Digital apparitions in the house. What's up? It is mass hypnosis. I called it a while ago. I think a lot of people did, but one of the episodes of Rogue Ways a while ago is about, Corona. Corona is our crown. Corona is a crown. Corona means crown. It's a crown virus. It's a mind virus. They're not even hiding it. All right, let's move on. So it is, again, still in the section of government, but it is nice that there are some, and I don't understand like what's going on politically in England, so forgive me at my ignorance, but there are some MPs who are working together to stop any future lockdowns, which is cool. It would be nice if they would stop the current lockdowns, and maybe they will. But it's nice that they're at least trying to stop future ones. Again, I'll never understand why anyone cares how many cases there are. You could literally, I was talking with someone today when we were doing a tarot reading, and we were talking about it, and I was like, you could go out and you could measure or test for like white shirts, and every day it'd be crazy that the total cases of white shirts are rising. Oh my God, everybody freak out. Oh, look, she's wearing a white shirt right now. So is this guy. It's a conspiracy. And you could freak out about it. And you could look at it for the rest of your life and be like amazed at how the numbers just keep going up. It's like stupid. It's stupid. Yeah, they're going to keep going up because you keep testing for it. Anyway. Okay. So just in case anyone was confused, and I'm going to throw this in the chat because it's a pretty cool site. If there is something not cool on this site, again, forgive me, I didn't do an exhaustive research on these people or who they are, but I just looked and saw that they have really, really cool resources here. So they have the negative health effects, which includes all of these you've just seen appear on the screen. Social isolation, definitely negative. Economy crashing, definitely negative. Suicide increasing, like some cases, in some places, 500%. What the hell? It's not funny. I just have to laugh because it's so ridiculous. Smoking and substance abuse also have increased. I don't know why smoking is separate from substance abuse, but, you know, any kind of vices. I'm sure you've all noticed it's been harder, perhaps, to eat well. You know, when you have all this stress and all this emotion, and even if you're not necessarily, like, tapped into it, it's around you. And that can really make it like, why would I care if I eat an extra slice of pizza? We're all going to die or whatever, you know. It's harder, I think, for a lot of people to remain healthy and upright and well mentally and in all the ways during this. And then famine. And famine, thank God someone's pointing it out. I know that Christian Ice Age Farmer is doing a really great job of underscoring all of the food insecurity issues and the systemic food production and distribution failures that are definitely planned and already in effect. And so famine is an interesting thing to point out as well. And these, I like this too, because the message is like not focusing again on whether or not it's real or whether or not it's whatever. They're just saying, who cares about any of that? Just look at all the harm that's being done. Because the harm that's being done far, far outweighs any of the lives that are being saved. There's way more people dying because of what we're doing than there are people being saved, no matter how you cut it. And I like that. So it's a cool site. It has a lot of stuff going on. And it does have links to a lot of these international coalitions and consortiums of health experts and scientists and just leading thinkers in the world who are, you know, trying to draw attention to how harmful the restrictions are and how much they're hurting people. As everybody hopefully would know by now, but definitely doesn't, the World Health Organization has already repeatedly said that they don't support lockdowns. Not that we should even trust or listen to them, but everyone says we should. And so if we should, then we should. And we're not. You know. And everybody points to Sweden. Sweden has barely locked down in any sort of way. They've just sort of encouraged social distancing, and I think some people wear masks, and that's all. That is all. So it really goes through piece by piece, and it's very, very logical, and it is very rational, and it uses data, and it's great. So if you need to kind of share with someone, if you get anyone who is curious, which is rare, take advantage of that curiosity and maybe send them here because it's such a well-organized, very, very effective and very user-friendly site. So I just wanted to show that. This is one way of, again, is this resistance? If you want to call it that, you can. I mean, they're calling it that, lockdown resistance. That's how I found it, actually. But I think, again, they're putting their time into creating what they want to see. And what they want to see is people who are aware and informed of all of the reasons and the logic about why we should live in a certain way and why we should not let draconian measures ruin our world. So I like that. Very proactive, very informative, very educational. Super rad. Yeah, I know this stuff, like, how did I not find this site before, right? People in the chat are like, thank you, cool resource, totally rad. But yeah, it's a lot of stuff is harder to find. This was probably on like the 10th page of search, you know, through DuckDuckGo. which doesn't even seem to censor much, if at all. So not at the top. But I like this clip from Corbett. Like I said, a lot of other content creators are also trying to draw attention to the positive things that are happening and what the mainstream, lamestream media is not going to cover. And hopefully you guys can hear this. You should be able to. And hopefully I don't get a strike for it, but I just want to play a little bit of it.
We do not need to join any particular political party or even any particular protest movement. All we have to do is disobey these unlawful orders.
Disobey.
The persistent anti-lockdown protesters said they will not forget Melbourne's strict 112-day measures as they took to the steps of Parliament. They carried signs saying don't trust the government and chanted for police to join them in their rally.
I've lost friends, I've lost family who've killed themselves. I've seen clients die because they've lost their livelihood.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I know you are, and I'm asking for you to guys have some compassion.
Could he arrest us all? Because from what I'm gathering here in this area, we are all banding together and going against our governor.
So that is also, by the way, why protests are so good. It's not because you may actually change the government's mind. It's because you get that many people together and you're all like doing something in the same vein. And especially if they haven't infiltrated with their operatives who will start violently, destroying things in order to discredit your movement, then you have this moment where you're all aligned. And especially if they're like banging things, they're making music as much as it seems sort of discordant. That like aligns your energy together. Like that in itself is powerful and transformative. You're like bringing that into this plane for everybody to tap into, and it's really, really cool. So I love protests for that reason. I just also see that they don't actually change, right? Like the policies of the government. And again, this is the point I want to keep coming back to over and over again, that the resistance, if you want to call it that, is not in trying to change what these people are doing. Right? Like Buckminster Fuller said, you don't try to rip down the old shit, you build the new shit. I'm pretty sure he said shit, right? No, paraphrasing. But you put your energy into what you want to see and not against what you don't want to see. Just like the abduction, that's how it flows. So it's nice. They're actually, again, the media is apparently highlighting a few of these instances, but otherwise it's like YouTube, like phone videos, like we saw with this guy and his whole business. They were like, the sheriff showed up to kick them out. You probably saw this somewhere. And to tell them to shut down, and there's lockdowns and curfews and all this. And they were like, dude, like, let's just talk like human people, like my friend killed himself because he couldn't live anymore like this. Like, and they're like, oh, I'm very sorry for you. Like, dude, don't say it like that. You are not. If you're sorry, then like you would feel it. It sounds like you're a robot. Anyway, they're just like, no, we're not doing that. We're not locking down, and there's no law that says you can. And I'm a free man, a free woman, and I don't have to abide by your weird anti-people measures that you are trying to implement. So it's hopeful. It's hopeful that this time around there's more businesses like that. There's more people gathering to at least encourage one another that we're all out here and that we agree that it's not okay to lock down. And that is cool. Nachi Kate says, better to light a candle than curse the darkness. Exactly. Thank you. What a beautiful way to put it. Vibe shift is right, Jenny B. Oh, that's so sad. Gordon has had 2 student suicides in their school district since this has started. It's really, I think, hard for kids. Can you imagine? Like when I was a kid, I was like, damn, this world is fucked up. I was just talking about this today too. I was like, kind of came to the realization like, oh my God, everything is a lie. And then I started looking around. I was like, oh my God, everything is a lie. Like literally. And I was like 12 or whatever. And I was also trying to like figure out what to wear and how to do my hair and like whether or not I could like do the thing in class or whatever. Like that's all terrifying enough. And then the world is already bullshit enough. And now on top of that, we have like this worldwide just horribly tyrannical takeover. And they're not stupid. Like, they might be like, oh, I'm supposed to wear a mask because they told me to or whatever. But they're not dumb. So yeah, they're killing themselves. So they're like, this is a hopeless situation. The adults aren't even going to stop this, you know? The adults aren't even going to light their candles instead of cursing the darkness. I love it. Jenny B says they can try to control the ocean. We out here riding the waves. That's right. That's right. What's up, Abe Williams from Kentucky? What's up, Rock Johnson? Rock Johnson's father always said, Mark, there's 7 billion people on this planet all lying. That's an awful lot of deception. I'll just say, it's only 97% of people who are lying. Some of us aren't lying, but I got you. It is a lot of deception. All right, this made me so happy. I hope you guys saw this already, but this is rather... Because it's been crazy to look at, like, actually in New York, they're literally sending out teams of officers to go hunt down Jewish people from their hiding spaces and drag them out. And I'm like, you don't remember? Like, we're not supposed to do that? No? Okay. But this Hasidic celebration happened, this that you see right here with literally thousands of people. And the way they pulled this off was by sharing word of mouth only. So take a lesson from this. You know, when things really get crazy, word of mouth, especially if you have a phone in a Spiro case, which literally turns your phone, it's electromagnetically sealed like a little Faraday pouch. Nobody can track you or trace you through that. Seriously, you should get one. If you haven't yet, go to Spiro EMFprotectiveclothing.com and get yourself a cell phone bag. It's definitely worth it. In fact, Mac does so many giveaways. You could probably even try to win one on Instagram or something. I have one, you know. Anyway, word of mouth, especially when your phone's in the bag, is going to be the way to go. I mean, hopefully not, but I'm just saying it works. Here we go.
This is what New York City is hoping to avoid. A repeat of this gathering Sunday night in the village of New Square, Rockland County, where thousands of Orthodox Jews thumbed their noses at social distancing and mask rules enacted by the state. The gathering...
Like, wouldn't it be cool if what unites us all is not this, like, perceived threat, like a pandemic or, like, a fake alien invasion or those things that the conspiracy world talks about? Wouldn't it be rad if what actually unites us is that we all decide that we all deserve to be free no matter where we're from or no matter who we are, no matter what we believe, no matter how we celebrate? That'd be neat. But just a little bit more dancing.
Could be responsible for a new spike in infection rates. According
Right?
to Governor
I'm like, I wanna
Cuomo,
be
the
Jewish.
positive test rate in Rock...
Oh, shut up, President? Ew, I just called him President. Shut up, Emmy Cuomo, you actor. Yeah, I've been waiting. I'm like, when are the religious people going to stand up? Like, how can you even not? It's in your religion. It's in your religion that this is going to happen to you and that you shouldn't put up with it, and you're still putting up with it. Again, I get it, especially at first. If you're like, oh, like, yeah, a couple weeks, flat on the curve, sure. But at this point, like, it's been like 11 months. It's the fucking end of November now. Oh my God. So yes, I was very, very, very proud that there is at least one church somewhere, synagogue, that is standing up and doing what they want. Again, did they fight for it? No. Did they, like, you know, force it? No, they just fucking did it. They were like, hey, you guys want to have a party? Yeah? All right, let's go have a party. I don't need anybody's permission. So that was cool. And then Italy has been having a lot of protests too, just especially in this past few days and weeks, but here's a little bit of that.
Italy is among the many European countries which is now dealing with the second wave of COVID-19 infections. While Italian Prime Minister Conte has ruled out a second national lockdown, he has announced tough restrictions across the region.
You notice like 100% of worldwide of news outlets have to use the second wave, no matter what they're describing. It's the second wave. You're like, all you're really talking about is that there's an increased number of testing done, an increased number of tests done, and therefore a higher incidence of case rates. But somehow that's a second wave, and we're just going to keep calling it that because, as we all know, repetition makes people think of it as true. So now, if you went out and polled people, is there a second wave? Probably like 85% or more would say, yeah, we're in the second wave. Probably a very small fraction would either be like, huh, or like, no. Most people would say, yep, even though it's not true. There's not an increase in deaths right now. There's not an increase in hospitalizations, and if it is, it's very minor. There's definitely an increase in cases. But Italy is having these protests, and I think we get to how they're trying to, and this is why protests sometimes fail, is, you know, you have these protests, and whether it's genuine that people are this angry and they actually just start burning shit or not, it could happen. But, you know, as someone who was deeply involved in this type of work for years, we all knew, it was just obvious, it happened all the time, that agent provocateurs come in and ruin your protests. They do it all the time. If it's big enough or important enough, there's going to be agent provocateurs. They're going to ruin it, and everyone's going to get arrested. And then the news is going to come in and say, look at these violent protests. And you're like, yeah, except 99.9% of people weren't. And the people who weren't even connected to any of us. But that doesn't matter, because now the news can just say it's violent. It is amazing that the protests are violent when they're lockdown protests, but not if they're for BLM or, you know, at all. That's not violent. Those are mostly peaceful. But this is violent. Look, there's a pile of thing on fire. Whatever that thing is. Like, anyway, that they're protesting is nice. Again, it's nice to gather with people. It's nice to connect. It's nice to know that you're not alone. It's nice to be visible about the fact that you're not going to go along with things. It's when you start to, like, if you do start to burn or loot or whatever, then you're in full resistance, and then they can use that against you, right? When you resist and you fight and you fight and you fight, it actually helps them hold on tighter. When you just let go and do what you need, nobody can hold on to you. So they just go into how all of these different areas of Europe are actually not only seeing increasing, you know, lockdown attempts, but also increasing protests and people not complying. So it is very hopeful. It is more hopeful than it has been. As much as it's also darker than it has been, the hope has also increased. So we're like at least keeping on par here. So it's nice to see. This is part of our bright winter that we're looking at the hopeful non-resistance, but lighting of the candle. I love that. I love that lighting of the candle. Nachiketa always brings the fire. Ha ha, see what I did there? The Italian government approved aid to shore up the businesses, including grants and tax holidays. And it's like, so far this has done little to diffuse the opposition, because nobody wants your fucking grants. They want to have their goddamn business open. They don't give a shit about your grants. How long is your grant going to last? We are starting to realize that, like, if we shut down and we take this grant, the grant's going to last us a week, and then we're still going to be shut down for another year. You know, they gave us like one, I don't know about you guys, but we got like one payment or whatever, which is already a horrible idea. We could do a whole show on that. But also, that was supposed to last. This is, again, 10 months long, and we had one payment that was supposed to help us. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I don't know why this is on October 14th, because the WHO, the World Health Organization, the pretenders in chief of the supposed health of the world, you know, who already have led us astray so many times. But now we're focusing on that they oppose lockdowns. And they did so far before October 14th, but apparently October 14th is when we decided to talk about it. I don't know. But good old Tedros, he's a dude. I'm like, why? Why that guy? Is he the smartest guy in the world? Is he the best scientist? Is he the most, like, objective and unbiased, you know, philosophical mind that ever existed? Like, no, he's just like a stupid dude who just happens to be in this job. It's like, why would we even listen to him anyway? We can, like, listen to him. He's like one voice of many. And be like, sure, there's one idea. I don't know. I realize they have all kinds of people and they compile all kinds of data and whatever, and it's also rife for corruption. Rife with corruption. Ripe for corruption. Anyway, they've said it. We shouldn't lock down, blah, blah. No one cares anymore because the whole plan was to lock down, and now we're doing it, and that's the reset. That's the Agenda 21 in action, and that's what they're doing. However, again, if you have some normies who are like, bird, World War III, you can show them this and be like, oh yeah? Well then, don't lock down. The end. That's the end. You're the one who made this. You're the one who made this an authority that we should trust, so you should trust it. That's what you say. But I do like, again, as much as, you know, people in the government saying, oh, maybe we shouldn't do lockdowns, blah, blah, we're gonna, in various countries we're seeing that, and that's like slightly hopeful. It's not, I don't really have a lot of hope in it, but I'm just saying it's not a bad thing if people in the government are drawing attention to it. But I'm way more hopeful when we have doctors, scientists, and you know, health experts supposedly, because these are the authorities that people look to and trust. So when they come together in large numbers to say that we should not do lockdowns, then that is hopeful too. And this is also pretty recent. Well, it's a couple months, you know, but still. And we've seen this many times. There's actually many times that many authorities have come together and said that we shouldn't be doing this. And that's really bad for mental health. It's really bad for economic health. It's really bad for, in fact, every single type of health, probably even including actual getting of the cold or the flu, which is all that COVID is. Wherever this is, by the way, like, I want to go there. Holy crap. Is this Belgium? I've been to Belgium. That's not what I remember. This is Belgium. Well, I didn't go there in Belgium, but I need to go back to Belgium, apparently, because that is pretty rad. I wonder what this building up at the top there is. Just like a fort, like an old fort. How cool. Look at this Tartarian shit going on. I love that the people who listen to this on the podcast like probably are like, what? I want to see. Just so you know, this is a picture of Belgium on a like riverfront with a Tartarian beautiful, beautiful building with other also very old but not nearly as cool buildings in front of it and a giant fort atop a hill behind it. It's pretty stunning. So yeah, it's in Belgium, but you know, we've seen this from various countries. Our country has had its own consortiums of people like this, authorities like this, of this nature, coming together and saying that we shouldn't be doing lockdowns and other sorts of things. Especially when they're like, trust the science, trust the science. You're like, literally the science says not to do it. Addie? Ah. Ugh. Okay. So yeah, blah, blah, blah. It just goes through all the things we already know, but I just like that these people came together to say this. I don't think there was any other reason that I wanted to look at this one. But, this is a good just blip, by the way. Spreading of any sort of cold or flu, I imagine, or respiratory illness, spreading occurs by drip infection or droplet infection, and only for patients who cough or sneeze, and aerosols in closed, unventilated rooms. So they're like, stay in your house, slave, and that's where you're going to get the sickest. Contamination is not possible in the open air. These are all the scientists who are saying this. It's also questioning whether or not there even is a second wave, which you should, because there's not. But they point out the number of hospital admissions or deaths showed a short-lasting minimal increase in recent weeks. Meaning, sure, there's like a minor increase, but you can by no means call that a wave. Literally, a wave should look like a wave on a graph. So yeah, ooh, and the Hippocratic Oath, good one. If you're going to actually say that you abide by that, you will promote health and alleviate suffering and do no harm, and that is not what's happening right now. Oh, check this out. This is really good information too. Vaccine efficacy in general is already questionable. We've done whole shows on it. You could go back and watch those if you want. But even if you were going by their standards, which are super shady, super padded, very liberal interpretations of effectiveness, like really, the methods they use are ridiculous. But even if you're going by their standards, our flu shots every year are almost never even half effective, 50%. They're almost never even close to that. They're very often 10% effective. Again, this is with them like padding the numbers and like, you know, changing, like they never use placebos, for example, and all kinds of things you would literally never ever do in any other study of any other drug ever. And they still can't get to 50% effectiveness. That's only once in the past 10 years, this is pointing out, that they have had one that has, you know, succeeded in 50% effectiveness. I bet that year they just had like less clouds. There was just more vitamin D or something, you know? Anyway. Also, shoot, I lost my also, but anyways, they're very much not effective at all, is the point. The vaccines are never effective. So now we're going to suddenly rush through this maximum rush vaccine and everybody's just going to take it. And they're saying that it's like 92% effective. And I'm like, go fuck yourself. That's just an outright lie. Like in the first time in the history of all vaccines, we finally have one that works. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. There has never been a vaccine that has been that effective. Like, they just have to, like, lie so much that, like, people are just like, oh, it's so fake it looks real, right? Oh, I was going to say, besides how ineffective these are, they also have to hide all of the harm that it does, including death. People are like, oh, how bad could the side effects be? And you're like, death. Death is how bad the side effects can be for anyone at any time, and there's no way to know ahead of time what it will be for you. Death. So just don't. Just maybe know, you know. Do whatever you, do what your doctor says. Totally trust your doctor, I probably have to say, for legal reasons. So, yeah. This is a cool letter as well. I will also throw this down in the chat if you want it. And I'll check in with the chat, see what you guys are saying. People doing people-y things. Yeah. Bros, welcome to the chat, Bros. Ross points out people who die of COVID would be dying of something else anyway. It's absolutely true. If you're going to die from a cold or a flu, even if it's a really bad one, and I think that I had it last November and it was really, really awful, but at no point was I even close to scared that I was going to die or need to go to the hospital, like not even a little bit. But it was the most brutal illness I've had in my life, definitely. So I do think that that was whatever this is. But I was never going to die because I'm healthy. I was always just going to be sick for a few days and then get better. And I just so happen to live with a like practical naturopathy master. And so, you know, he helped me kill it real quick. And that was very nice and helpful. So if you take care of yourself really well, and if you use methods of, you know, defeating these types of things, then you'll do fine if you do get it. And if you don't, you were already dying. That's just the end of the story. And people are like, no, otherwise healthy people died. I'm like, you think that? You don't know. Even the ones they've tried to point to, sometimes they've later found like, oh, actually, yeah, when we did the autopsy, she had like really bad cancer. And you're like, yeah, because that's basically who dies from infections. People who are already very sick. Otherwise, your body fights it off. You have an immune system. It works. That's what it's for. Take care of yourself. Yeah, no heart attacks anymore, no car accidents, no gunshot wounds, just everybody's COVID. It's amazing. It's amazing people who aren't even dead have died. But yes, Matt Feinberg is right. They can't break us. We are light. The brightest of bright winters. Is anyone going to take the vaccine? You know, it's a really good question, Rock Johnson. Definitely not. I don't take vaccines. I haven't ever since I took a vaccine that gave me cancer. And since then, I've decided it's probably not worth the risk. I'd rather take the risk of getting sick. As far as people I've talked to go, I don't know anyone who's going to. I'm a little bit worried about my family. I maybe want to talk to them about it sometime soon too. And, if you are like me and you want to talk about two loved ones about this, I just highly suggest, if you didn't already have this approach, that you do this. And this came up in a reading today, and it was very profound wisdom, as always, comes from the cards. If you want a reading, grab a reading. But and the wisdom was, you come to people when you have information for them and you think it might save their life. You don't come to them with like, all right, here's why you're dumb, and here's why I'm smart, and here's what you're missing, and why wouldn't you look at this, and or even like a tiny hint of that. If you have any of that in you at all, you have failed before you have begun, right? The only time people really listen is when people feel genuinely emotionally connected to you and without threat, right? So they feel comfortable, they feel like they can be vulnerable, and they feel like they have a genuine emotional investment. So I'm not describing this so that you are manipulative. I'm just describing this so that you can remember, I'm doing this because I love this person, right? I love my family. I don't want them to die. I don't want them to be harmed irrevocably by this rushed, sick vaccine. And so if I'm sharing this with them, I want to get rid of all my ego. Like, it doesn't matter if I was right or I was wrong, or any past fights we've had, or like any disagreements. Let that all go and just be like, dude, I love you so much. I care about you so much, and I really, really want you to understand the way that I see this danger to you. I want you to understand the danger that I see to you because I love you, and I could not bear it if you were harmed. And if afterwards you've really listened to me and you still want to do this, I respect your right to do whatever you want. But I cannot live with myself if I don't present this to you first, or if we don't talk about this first. And do it, in that place of love and connection, because that is very likely the only way that anyone's going to hear. And that they still might not, but it's the only chance you have. It's the only chance we have. So, good question. Yes, pretending like you're not going to die someday is the new trend. Being so terrified of your eventual death that you don't live at all is really hot right now. Matt Feinberg says there's so many Netflix shows about integrating with AI. Yeah, we still have Neuralink on the horizon too. We're going to bright winter the shit out of at Neuralink. But truly we are. One of the episodes is going to be about that. Yeah, Truth is Alchemy points out all the Ebola vaccine, they all died. and it's like maybe even far from the point of injection, so it's pretty hard to prove sometimes, and this will very likely be no different. And maybe this is the one vaccine that works. Maybe this is the one time. And then maybe whatever comes next kills all the people who didn't get the vaccine. It's possible. I'm still not going to take it. I still my body, and I still do what I want, and I still trust my immune system and trust that I die when I die, and that nothing can stop that. Yes, Bross points out, anybody who calls the cops on their neighbors for having too many people over are going to have to pay a heavy karmic price for it. I don't know if it's any heavier than any other time, but I definitely agree that it's a very deceitful way to behave. If your neighbor's doing something you're not enjoying, you go talk to them like a human being. You're like, hey, I'm really think this, and then you discuss rationally, and then if you can, and if you can't and someone's in danger and you need backup, then maybe you call somebody, and if not, then you deal with your life and move on. It's gonna be okay. Yeah, it's definitely not cool. It's like someone said, we started out 2020 saying we're all in this together, and we're ending 2020 saying call the police on your neighbors if there's people at their house. We're totally all in this together, I swear. Yep. Yeah, Lindsay Smith said, look into my eyes, brother. I don't want you to die. And we have to accept that many people will come back at us equally as upset and equally as coming from a place of equal love, saying, please get it. I don't want you to die. And we're just going to have to accept that that's going to happen. We're going to have to accept their love and not their advice, right? I mean, you do what you want. I don't even care. I just am assuming most of you are not getting it because you're here. But I'm not a doctor. And the law tells me that I should tell you that you should do what your doctor says. But yeah, all right, let's see what else we got here. Sweden refuses to impose new lockdown measures, saying people have suffered enough. It's almost like they're admitting, like, we've tortured people enough. I guess we'll let up for a few months or whatever. Oh, look. Oh, my God. They did that on purpose, right? Okay, yeah, they did, because it's Paul Joseph Watson, so of course they did. I was like, who put Stockholm in this picture? It's just prominently in the center. Stockholm. That's very clever. Good job, Paul. I like Paul. I know lots of people don't, but I don't care. So health authorities in Sweden have refused to follow the rest of Europe by imposing new coronavirus lockdown measures on their population. Even the fact that people think that they should ever impose something on their population is very strange to me. Like, I'm not yours. You don't get to impose on me. Anyway, they're arguing that those beset by loneliness and misery of being isolated have suffered enough. And people already isolate in Sweden. It's a somewhat isolating culture. The elderly especially suffer severe degradation of mental health and mental clarity and ability. And that's horribly sad. And I would go and like celebrate with all of the elderly people if I could, but you're not allowed in. They're just in prison now. They're in prison without visiting hours. And that's very sad. So at least, though, on the bright winter line, at least Sweden is like, yeah, no, we're good. We're not going to do that. They're continuing that, which is nice. And I'm looking at this as a bright winter thing. The U.S. stocks are dropping amid fresh lockdown concerns. I think that's cool because if the markets are affected negatively, maybe some of these rich people can, like, I don't know. It's not really a good hope, but it's just like, well, maybe it'll have an effect. Maybe some of them will be like, wait a second, no lockdowns. But who knows? Alibaba Group, they're always doing good. Stocks are choppy. Stocks are down because of COVID lockdown increases. But also in recent news from this month, at least in the UK, students, medical professionals, and the public resist the lockdowns. I liked that these students woke up at Manchester University and they woke up on the first day of lockdowns to find there's fences erected around their dormitories and penning them in like a prison. Can you imagine that? And so by that evening, they tore the fences down. And I'm like, yeah, see? Bright winter, that shit. Tear the fences down. Who thinks they can fence people into their house? Oh, my God. Reminds me of that Family Guy episode with Petonia or whatever. Peter Topia. I don't remember what it was. He was definitely fenced in. But it was by his choice. And that makes it okay. But I love that. I'm like, students, we used to say when I was an organizer that students had the most power in all of society because you're not yet completely locked down into like mortgages and kids and jobs and careers, and you have this sort of freedom and you're supposed to go to classes, but if you miss some that quarter and you don't pass, like it's not the end of the world. So students are kind of like the hope of society. They're also the most indoctrinated, but you know, they can do things like this. They could have this going for weeks if they wanted to. Just go tearing down all kinds of fencing or, you know, breaking down all kinds of expectations of how people should behave under COVID. Let's see if any of these play. Maybe not. Oh, well. They went out. It sounds like a lot of them. Again, they're wearing their masks mostly, but again, whatever. They're trying to resist being like demonized in the media, so it's not so bad. I love that this nurse resigned publicly in Cornwall. National Health, I forget what that stands for. National Health Services. I think that's all their hospitals and stuff over there. Anyway, there's turned whistleblower and resigned in public. It was recorded but quickly removed from YouTube and Twitter, but we found a copy.
I'm in my uniform, working as a healthcare assistant for the NHS. I don't need the uniform to prove that I work for them, but today I'm publicly resigning, okay? I'm wearing this uniform, sadly, for the last time. I loved my job, okay? I absolutely loved it. Those of you that have been following what's going on, we've done talks, we've organised protests, I've had a lot of flack. I'm at the point now, it's all coming back to me. I've had an email from work last night asking me what's going on. People are reporting me, and unfortunately I can't lie anymore. The email is asking what's going on, and how can I lie? I did something really bad. I took a screenshot on Friday that shows the figures of how many people are in Trelisk Hospital with COVID. And I shared it. Because this should be public information, okay? I can tell you that on Friday, in Trelisk, there were 3 people in with COVID. No extra death.
3 people. And they're having a lockdown. And that's 3 people who tested positive and have flu-like symptoms. That doesn't even mean anything. There would be 3 people, or maybe even more, in any normal time in this time of year. But good for her, right? Again, she's not resisting. She's like, oh, I'm just going to be myself and be true to myself. I think people should have this information. I'm going to give people this information. And by the way, since I can no longer in good conscience do this job, I quit. It's pretty awesome. That's what I'm saying. We all have this power, to do whatever we need to do to be true to ourselves and whatever we need to do to make sure our soul is intact. Because that's all that matters in the end. You're absolutely going to die someday. And if your soul's intact, you're good. If your soul's all shattered and there's pieces of it hidden in different deceptions and like different lies and different self-delusions and like, that sucks. Don't go that way. Come to the light side. We have broccoli. So I just had to pause really quickly because I looked over and Nachiketa said, we need a saw scenario. Put all the needles in a big pit and put all the people who were for the vaccine in there and make them crawl their way out. Like, damn, that's rough. That is rough. I'm not completely opposed. I'm like, yeah, you want a vaccine? Go down there and get it. But Candace said, Stockholm publication triggering your psyche, Stockholm syndrome, anyone just saying. No, that's the whole point. That's why he put Stockholm there, because he was pointing out Stockholm syndrome, and he was drawing attention to the fact that people who are going along with this are suffering from Stockholm syndrome. So is he secretly also like triggering people? Like, I mean, maybe, but genuinely he's just calling attention to the fact that people are suffering from Stockholm syndrome. In my humble opinion, yeah, tons of Stockholm syndrome. It's basically like probably the best way to describe most people's psychological situation right now is that they're suffering from Stockholm syndrome. Yeah. So, yeah, this page is full of a lot of hope and also a little bit of reality, which is fine too. But I liked those little examples of ways that people are, again, not like doing the resistance that's going to add the fight and the chaos, and the control to the aggressor, but the type of, what's the right word for it? Well, it's not resistance, but it is resolution. I don't know. Just being true to yourself. Just letting go of all the bullshit and being like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Like, I just walk around without a mask. I don't stop to wonder if anyone cares or if they're going to do anything about it. I just don't put one on ever. And I walk through every store I want to go to, and I do everything I want to do. I have people over if I want to have people over. I go places when I want to go places. I've done that this whole time, and I've never ever let them stop me. But I like this article. It's a little bit older. It's from April of this year. But I like it because it's the bright winter style. They're pointing out we still have choices, right? Just because we're fighting, you know, whether the unseen enemy is a Stockholm Syndrome virus of the mind takeover of the world or not, we still have our humanity, our common sense, our freedoms, despite the nanny state that thinks that they can do a better job taking care of us than we can do for ourselves. I like that they point out that whatever we're giving up willingly now, whether it's basic human decency, the ability to manage our private affairs, the right to have a say in how the government navigates this crisis, or the few rights still left to us that haven't been disemboweled in recent years by the power-hungry police state, we won't get back so easily once this crisis is passed. And that is exactly true. And that's exactly why some businesses now are like, whatever, I'm staying open. And honestly, why wouldn't you at this point? You know, they could come with you and they could give you like a fine and do all this stuff. Whatever. If you're going to close down for sure forever anyway, if you close now, then just stay open. Burn the fucking fine. Like, you know, there's all these places that have stayed open and people have had massive support for them and GoFundMes and all kinds of stuff. And all you have to do is just stay open and invite people to come in and use your services. And, you know, I don't know. Anyway, that person was making good points. We always have a choice. We always have the ability to continue to live in the way we want to. Some people might be violent and aggressive and forceful towards us if we do that. We can't control that, but we can always control what we're doing. But I wanted to highlight this. This also came out of the tarot session earlier. It's a very good session. They always are, though. But this is the point that, you know, we are all human beings. We're all men and women. We're free. You know, if you go into the sovereign citizen thing or anything like that and natural law and all this stuff, it's like we are human beings and we have God-given, or at the very least, we are born with our rights. No one gives them to us and therefore no one can take them away. But there's this idea of contract law. And when people are contracting, you have 4 ways of responding. And what we talked about today was conditional acceptance. And so you can either accept someone's offer. They're like, hey, we're going to do COVID lockdowns. And you're like, okay. And that's what most people are doing. Or they're like, hey, we're going to do COVID lockdowns. And people say nothing because they're terrified and they're suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. So are the full acceptance people. Or they can say, hey, we're going to do lockdowns. And you can argue, discuss, fight, and make statements, which they will publicize in order to discredit you. So, I mean, you can do that. I'm not opposed to it. I'm just saying I don't think it's the best option. Or you can do number 2, which is conditional acceptance. And you can say something like, sure, you can lock down when you make sure that me and everyone in my family and all of my friends have 100% of our bills paid, our loans paid, 100% of the food we would normally eat, and also an ability to exercise and practice our religion together, you know, while being able to physically be in connection with one another or something like that, right? And they're like, so you've like said like, yeah, I'll accept that with all of this. And now they have to either accept your counteroffer or make another counteroffer. It's just an interesting idea that I wanted to bring up because we talked about it earlier. And if you are ever in a situation where someone's saying like, you have to close your thing, or you have to put on a mask, you have to put on a mask, you can be like, okay, I'll put on a mask when you can show me the study that proves for sure that it will protect me, you know, or sure, I'll put on a mask when you can both show me the study that proves for sure that it protects me beyond a shadow of a doubt, and show me the one that proves for sure that it causes me no harm. Then I'll put on this mask, you know? Or they're like, oh, you can't do that, you can't come to church today or whatever. And you're like, sure, I'll not go to church today when you prove to me, or whatever you want to do. I just like the option, right? And it makes them have to evaluate and offer a rebuttal, or like a, you know, they have to respond. I mean, they don't have to, people are people, but it's a cool method at least. So we'll keep that in mind. That's a way to carry our brightness into the bright, bright winter. Yes, of course, wearing a mask can actually harm your health. We all know this. Not everybody else does. This is just a nice little reminder. of the ways that masks harm you. They do reduce your blood oxygenation. Yes, they do it even to people who are doctors or nurses and wear them. They do it very, very infrequently. And when they do wear it for longer, surgeons in the operating room frequently experience physical discomfort, fatigue, and possibly even deterioration of surgical judgment and performance. But they don't often wear a mask for that long. Most surgeries are very short. Most surgeries are very short. They don't wear a mask all day long. They never have. They wear it in very acute situations for very short periods of time. And again, when they wear it for longer periods, they have always, always suffered from it. Okay. It increases carbon dioxide levels. Carbon dioxide is a poison. It affects your neurology. It's not safe for you to be inhaling. People kill themselves with it. Number 3, it increases the risk of headaches. Number 4, it increases the risk of brain fog, difficulty concentrating, and exhaustion. Probably because of lack of oxygenation, people have crashed their cars from wearing their mask in their car because people are wearing their masks in their cars for some reason. Masks made overseas have been found to be faulty and inadequate and filthy and covered in pesticides and chemicals. They're disgusting. They contain known carcinogens. They say on the box that they don't protect you from infection because they don't protect you from infection. Number 6, they increase your risk of infection, mostly because they're worn inappropriately and also because mask wearers fiddle with them, frequently touching their face, also because you breathe into them. They're constantly being moved around on the face. They're constantly being touched. You're definitely spreading disgustingness when you're wearing a mask. You'll notice if a surgeon or a nurse is wearing their mask, they don't touch it. And if they do, they throw it away and get a new one. Wearing a mask concentrates exhaled viruses in the nasal passages. One of the ways we rid ourselves by viral infection or other infection is by exhaling. So if you're wearing a mask, you're not doing that, and therefore you're more likely to get sicker. If you are, fighting something off that you would have otherwise fought off, you might get sick instead. Number 8, wearing a mask causes problems for people with special needs. Deaf people who rely on lip reading, people with autism who have trouble understanding verbal cues and need visual cues to help them, and anyone who is hard of hearing. They all suffer the most when people are wearing masks. Also, we'll add to that children, because children are always looking at faces to try and understand what's going on. They're very empathic beings. This is how they're learning about the world. They're little computers. And they are suffering so much. Can you imagine being a kid, right? Like a little tiny kid right now and just looking around at this and not getting all of that information that you are supposed to use to form your own way that you empathetically show back to other people how you feel because you've seen it so often on so many other faces. So now we're literally making psychotic, like sociopathic children who will not understand any of that. Literally, this is how they learn it. We're just cutting that off. Which I'll point out is my favorite for the real reason for masks. I know there's so many reasons, but I believe that that's probably the number one. What better than for the psychopaths to have an entire generation of other psychopaths? And number 9, wearing a mask can cause severe and painful contact dermatitis, painful rashes, and other skin damage on your face. This is just a partial list, by the way. Those are just 9 of them. There's people who are getting crazy bacterial infections in their lungs that haven't been seen in this number for like ever before, which is disgusting. There's people who have PTSD who seeing other people in masks is triggering to them, and that is very unfortunate. There's all kinds of levels to this that you could go into, and this is why, again, I highly recommend anybody out there who doesn't want to wear a mask use any of these reasons to say, I have a medical exemption. You don't have to have some sort of chronic illness or ongoing issue for your health in order to say every human is medically exempt, because medical exemption means if it would cause harm to you, you don't have to wear it. Well, it causes harm to everyone, so you don't have to wear it. So I just highly encourage everyone to say that. Just don't wear it and just point out that you have a medical exemption. So I know I say it all the time, but there it is one yet again. Again, it's actually a very, very, very bright winter when we have so many people who are writing about it, reading about it, sharing information about it, and professionals who are putting this stuff together and reminding us of all the reasons why we shouldn't wear a mask. That is another reason why I wanted to point this out again, because I like that it's much easier now than it was. Remember in the first few months, it was like hard for us to put together all the resources to try and make our arguments. Like now they're all out here. Oh, and I'll throw this in the chat. You guys want it? If you want it. Wow, I love this. Gordon says, my wife works in medical. She lost her voice because they mandated masks. She quit her job a month ago. Her voice magically came back. Go figure. I really feel like that's not just the physical, you know, you're wearing the mask and you have some sort of like infection that's happening in your larynx or whatever, pharynx or whatever. And so you're losing your voice and you get rid of the mask and the infection clears up. I really also feel like that's one of those times where this is psycho-emotional, which is most of our illnesses. I'm not saying that's something wrong with your wife. I'm saying that's like how we work. We get illnesses in areas because of our, possibly past life stuff, possibly current emotional damage, but it's always correlating with our other bodies. Our physical body correlates with our emotional, our mental, and our spiritual bodies. So makes sense to me. That's pretty cool. Yeah, we're worried about the next generation, but we're all here to help guide them. And I always try to point out to people that talking to kids is one of the coolest things you can ever do, especially if you're just yourself and you're just talking to a kid. Like, I feel like people talk to kids like they're some other species and they like feel like they have to put on an act of some kind. And I've never met a kid who wants that to happen. If you're just like if you're just talking like we're talking here, kids appreciate that. And if you can talk to them about these types of things, that's all the better. Neurosurgeon expresses concerns over wearing masks. Again, more people who are looked to as experts and authorities are coming out and stating that people shouldn't wear masks like this, and that no, surgeons don't wear masks like this. And, surgeons also don't, even if a surgeon did like a really long surgery one day, it's not like they do that every day. It's just like sometimes, then they go like golf and do other things too. They're not like always wearing masks. I hate that. People are like, oh, I'm a firefighter and I wear a mask. You're like, yeah, you wear a mask during the fire. That's not very often that you're actually in a fire. Good Christ. But yes, masks can harm you. I don't know why I have this many open. I know you guys know. But I love global research. I'll share you this one with you, and then we'll move on from how bad masks are. And again, how easy it is. The whole point of masking, again, is just to remember, it's so easy to say, I have a medical exemption. Masks damage my health. The end. You can even cite this research, right? But yeah, they not only weaken you, they also make you feel dehumanized. They dehumanize you to others, which makes them treat you worse. Like it's crazy. There's so many reasons not to wear masks. And this is where we're at now. We're in a place in society, we're at a place in the history of the world where this picture before you is an open act of rebellion. I don't know who these people are. I hope they're not like some family from TV and everybody knows and I don't. I just searched for family at Thanksgiving because this is like all over the place. They're saying we can't have Thanksgiving. And obviously we're going to have Thanksgiving. There's a ton of people who aren't. It's really sad, actually. I'm very sad for people. I genuinely have such sadness and compassion for people who are choosing to cut themselves off from their family because of this. And I want to re-emphasize that you're choosing to do that. There is no government who has authority to make you do that. There is nobody who can make you do that. You're a living, breathing human being. Nobody can make you do that. That's your fucking family. You are choosing not to touch them. You're choosing not to look them in the eye. You're choosing not to connect with them on that heart level. You're choosing not to have this tradition that you've been doing for who knows how long in your tradition. You're choosing that. So this again comes back to that point. You don't have to make it resistance. You don't have to make it open rebellion. You can just choose to live your life. You can just say, I'm going to have food and eat with people I love. And if they choose not to come, then they choose not to come. And if the fucking police choose to come to my house, I will offer them some turkey and be like, dude, chill out. You're for real right now? That is not going to happen. But that's not going to happen. It's just like the woman in the video said about their keeping their businesses open. She's like, what? We're all going to do it in this area, wherever she was from. We're all going to keep our business open. They're going to come and arrest all of us? I don't think so. You know, and it's the same with this. Like, if we just have Thanksgiving, they're not going to arrest people. It's stupid. They're going to arrest like one or two, make a huge deal of it, and everyone else is going to have Thanksgiving, and then we'll all GoFundMe the people who got arrested. Or whatever. There's way better things than GoFundMe. I just can't think of them right now. So yeah, there's one way that we are not resisting, but just creating the world that we want, right? Ooh, one more. Nachiketa points out masks damage my mental health. Absolutely. If putting a mask on makes you anxious or sad, you can't wear a mask. It's bad for you. It's a medical exemption. Jaybird has come by to say what's up. Thank you, Jaybird. Glad you're enjoying it. Jaybird, you'll be alone on Thanksgiving. I think a lot of people will, and you're not alone in that. And maybe that's a reason why I might have a show on Thanksgiving so we can come hang out together. I'll just have like that burning fire in the background, and we can just share stories of Thanksgiving or something. I'll think about it. I don't know when I'm going to be back home or if I'm going to be able to do that, but yeah, I hope that you can find people to have Thanksgiving with. Even if they're like people you don't know that well, like go find other people who don't think it's okay to give up Thanksgiving and have Thanksgiving with them. We used to have Friendsgiving many years too, because we couldn't necessarily get together with our families. They were really far away or whatever. And so we would all get together and just do that. And I just think it's important to be together with people. If that's your tradition, if it's not and you always do it alone, you're cool with that. Like, I don't care. I'm just saying, don't let them tell you not to. Make your choice about what you want to do and do it. This also is another example of how you can not give in to their draconian, tyrannical takeover of the world and just keep living the life you want. You have a store? Keep it open. You like to shop? Go shopping. Like, this shouldn't be rebellion or resistance, but it is now what you can do in order to keep the life that you want. I know a lot of us aren't like shoppers or whatever, but I like more often than I probably would have try to go out and just buy random shit from small stores because I'm like, dude, more than ever, we need to keep them going. And that is another way that you still have the power, you still have the choice, and you will always have the choice. You will always have the choice. It might not always feel that way. You might be scared of a ticket or a fine. You might be scared of possible jail time. I'm not scared. I'm going to keep living the way I live and the way that I know is right. And I'm not in control of how other people respond to that. Also, this idea that we can barter and trade is really important right now. I felt bad because I had someone ask me if they could barter for a reading yesterday, and I do barter for readings. I like doing that. And at the same time, I can't just like accept any random thing, and just didn't happen to have any things that I needed or wanted. But in general, like, I love this concept and I love doing this. You find people who need what you have and have what you need. Trade directly. We don't even need currency for that, right? No one can stop us from doing that either. And that may become more and more important as time goes on as well. Especially if the economy is going to shut down and small businesses are going to shut down and they're going to try to control food supply and all these things. This is an especially brightness that we have as humans, that we can take care of each other in these ways, and we can trade goods and services directly. And so we're going to have to maybe get a little bit more creative with how we can do that to keep each other going. But it's a beautiful thing. So there's that as well. Yeah, Candace, work it. I love it. And Candace is absolutely right, Jaybird. I bet we have tons of people in your area. Tons of people. I bet we can all get together. Not all of us, but like, I bet there's people who can get together and do Thanksgiving. That'd be pretty rad. I would love that. In fact, if anybody wants to go to rogue.locals.com over there on the other side of the screen and make like a post or something. We could comment like if we want to try to get together or where we're from or something. I know people don't like to share that much information sometimes, and that's okay. I'm just saying we can do that. We've done things like that before in the Rogue community, and it has been a beautiful thing. Jay's in Walker, Minnesota. So if we got any people in Walker, Minnesota or near there who also are having a Thanksgiving alone or who aren't and want to invite Jay, that'd be rad. I would love it. You guys make me so happy. Bright winter barter. I love it. This is another thing, and this is the option that might be less likely for a lot of people. But this is something that keeps our brightness bright. And it's the idea that we can live as self-sustainably as possible. We can live off-grid if possible. And just that we can get more and more out of what we have. And I liked this picture specifically because I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to need to like buy this property and then like build a house on it and then like do all this stuff and have this huge operation. And it looks to me like this person found like an old cabin that are often seen kind of somewhat abandoned and like beefed it up a little bit and just kind of went with what was around to plant in whatever they could find. There's all these planters that are just made out of whatever. They just have sort of whatever. It's like they're using everything they have to some sort of purpose and advantage. You know, they're collecting water in this rain barrel over here. And clearly they've got like some animal husbandry going on and whatnot. I just am saying it doesn't have to look amazing, but the closer you can get to this goal of self-sustainability and taking care of yourself, the better for everyone, right? Part of the reason why they're able to pull all this bullshit off is not just because they control a lot of people's psychology and that Stockholm syndrome is in full effect. A lot of the reason they can pull this off, though, is because people depend on them. People are caught in the system. They need the system in order to survive. They can't imagine a life where they don't go to the store and buy Spam and mac and cheese. And so they can't... I'm not judging those things, by the way. I would totally eat those from time to time. But, you know... imagining even growing like one container of a container garden of food would like blow their mind. But that's where you start, you know? A lot of people are like, I can't. I'm like, nah, you can. I've lived in some pretty crazy situations and I've still been able to grow like basil and rosemary or like a little pepper plant or something. You can grow something. And the goal is to start, because once it's part of your habit, then you're drawn ever more that direction. It's like anything else. If you take a step in one way, like now you're on that path. You keep taking steps on that way, like you're on that path. So I know not everyone wants to live in like a tiny cabin in the middle of nowhere, but you know, my friend just bought even like a little bit further outside of the city and just a tiny bit of a bigger plot, and they're just going to start planting things, and they have their own well there, and that's a pretty good start. If you have a well or a rain barrel catchment in a place where it actually rains pretty frequently, and you can grow food, even in a tiny little plot with containers, like you already are way better than most people. You know, and then you can throw some chickens or some rabbits into the mix, and now you're pretty close to independent. Is it luxurious? No. But in a total like shutdown situation, you would be the man and the woman. You'd be the people. You'd be the people who survive. So this is another, again, brightness that we have available to us that we can keep going. And it just so happens to be something that is going to be part of the bright 3 days of brightness retreat. And so I want to draw your attention to that again. So again, we've been doing the Bright Winter hashtag, the Bright Winter campaign on Rogue for a couple weeks now, and we're going to keep it rolling until this moment of the darkest darkness of the year. And that's astrologically speaking. And therefore it may be otherwise also, because we know they like to align with astrological phenomenon. And this one, as we just went over on Sunday, is very interestingly timed and carries very interesting energies. And so as part of our growing community effort to make it a bright winter, we want it to culminate in this event where we're doing the 3 days of brightness retreat. It's going to be on Zoom. It's a Zoom retreat. It is 3 days. It's 3 days of celebration. You know, this is at the most festive time of the year. And so we're going to make it festive. It's going to be a celebration. We're going to be just normal people who are hanging out and together and doing normal people stuff and laughing and, you know, sharing, and it'll be fun. But it's also going to keep our community strong and cover a bunch of stuff that we all want to know more about and be better at. So we're reinforcing these things if you're already doing some of them. We're growing these things if you're a little bit down the path. Or we're introducing these things if you're like, oh my God, I have no idea, if you're totally new. So people at any level of experience can come, and you being there helps make it an awesome experience for everybody. So again, we've got some amazing teachers who have, you know, decades. Alan, I don't even know how long you've been a teacher and a leader, but Alan runs a temple in a Buddhist a Buddhist temple. And he has been teaching people practices and wisdom for however many years. And so we're so lucky to be able to have Alan at this retreat. We're going to, again, have Catherine O'Shea, who is a very gifted spiritual communicator. She has very open channels, and she has lots of messages that she brings, lots of wisdom and lots to share with us and teach us. And we're also going to have, again, Harmony. And Harmony is going to bring us some of what we were just talking about, that sustainability and that, you know, being as independent as possible. And again, nobody expects you to be an expert already, and also your abilities you already have will be honored, and that will all flow together so beautifully. It's very exciting. And in addition to that stuff, we're going to be doing some breathing exercises, some basic energy principles, we're going to do a how to see auras section. If you're somebody who already sees them, then you can help others. And if you can't see them yet, then you will by the time you leave, is the goal. How to know your guides. If you have spiritual allies and guides around you, how can you know who they are and what they want to say to you? And that is both very likely reinforced by Catherine, but also its own set of skills that you're going to be taught to know on your own without interpretation from others. Both are super valuable and necessary. How to interact with and understand them, your guides and your spiritual allies. Purification practices on a spiritual level, increasing your spiritual energy, practices for how you can just like bless your food and your water and other sort of mundane activities in life and bring that awareness and appreciation to those moments, which is a really beautiful thing if you haven't started that already. How to develop your inner knowing, your own intuition system, and how you can learn to trust it to know things that you think you don't know already, which is pretty powerful. And then just all kinds of tools, tricks, and tips from all kinds of different systems, backgrounds, and practices. So this isn't, you know, Alan comes from a sort of Buddhist background. Catherine comes from a totally different background. Harmony comes from a totally different background. I come from a totally different background. And so there's no denomination or like, you know, the spiritual aspect to this is very eclectic and syncretic and open-minded. And it's not meant to be anything but helpful for as many people as possible. So that's the 21st to the 23rd of December. We're doing 10 to 5, you know, or so. We could go over maybe if people have things they want to do or whatever. And like I said, if you can only attend part of this event, that is perfectly okay. You can always come back and check the recording for the time that you missed and still at least get that, you know, whatever you can from it. Because I realize not everyone can kind of give that much time or has that much time, or, you know, you just might have stuff you need to do. So that is also going to be available. So that's on the site. Again, the 3 days of brightness retreat. Gonna be rad, gonna be cool. And the best part about it for me is just that we are all gonna be together holding that level of brightness. Is gonna be so powerful. Like, just to be connected to it, I think will be really good for anybody, but especially at that moment. And that was the whole goal in creating this, and all of the people involved are on board with that, that we really want to make it as, you know, positive and bright and good as we can. And we're doing that for ourselves, but we're doing that for everybody. There is that spiritual principle, which I highlight in my books, the sine curve of Aeon and the Earth, the trough in time, which is the newest one. the most awesome one, the one I'm making an audiobook for right now, the one that you can buy a signed copy from me from my site or from Amazon for more money if you want to go that route. And what I have in these books embedded in this is the wisdom of all of these masters, because over my life of studying and learning and spiritual practices and diving into all of that, I noticed this trend that every single spiritual leader said the same exact thing. So it's actually in both books and multiple different quotes from multiple different leaders. It's just embedded in it. It's not even the point of the story. The idea that they all shared is the idea that when you heal yourself and when you bring lightness and brightness to yourself and when you hold yourself in that space, you actually do that for the whole world. So I say, you save all of yourself, you save all of the world. Isn't that so amazing? They all said it. It's like they were in on it or something. And it's true. You know, as within, so without, as above, so below. So we have this like almost like duty, this responsibility, because we're all here and we all see what's going on in the world. And we see that they are doing this dark winter. And that's the whole point of Bright Winter, is that we are intentionally and specifically choosing with our human ability that will never be taken away to choose to go a different way. And say, no, not really in it. I don't need to resist. I don't need to fight back. I don't need to, really do anything. I be myself. I'll talk about it when I need to talk about it. I'll draw attention to it when I need to draw attention to it. And otherwise, I'm just going to choose to live exactly as I want to live and feel exactly as I want to feel and hold that brightness and that lightness here on this plane with all of you. And so I invite you to come to that 3 days of brightness retreat with me and with the other amazing teachers who will be there. And it's going to be so, so good and so cool. I'm very excited. So go grab it. And again, don't forget the discount. The discount is there for supporters in rogue.locals.com. It is 21% because that is the solstice magic that we want to bring. So 21% off. 21% off. That's almost a quarter off the price. That's a pretty huge discount. I'm glad if you can take advantage of that. So go become a supporter to get that coupon code. The coupon code is in rogue.locals.com on a supporter-only post. You can only see it if you're a supporter. You can grab the code. You can go get the retreat and throw it in there. By the way, while you're there, while you're getting, your support at rogue.locals.com, you also will get the free blessing. It's still going. It's incredibly powerful and very, very good. And I hope that you take advantage of that as well. If you are a supporter and you haven't gotten it yet, there's nothing stopping you. Get it. Just connect with me and tell me what you would like for your blessing and we'll work it out. It's really cool. I'm very, very grateful to be able to do that. And I'm very, very grateful to be able to do this retreat and meet with you guys and do this cool thing. So anyway, I actually will try to do a Thanksgiving show. If I can, if I'm here and I get back in time and, it all works out and the stars align, I will do that so that we can all hang out and share some brightness on Thanksgiving as well, especially because it's a little bit sad for some people right now. And if anybody is near Jay, let's get Jay some Thanksgiving love going on. Otherwise, until you master the art of seeing all of the darkness and lighting your candle instead of cursing it, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first. Mwah.
I heard the Freemasons called you. Man, they at it again. And I'm out to tell the truth once more. That's right. It's on the cracking, unknown in the house. APOGZ, that's right. Hitting the stereo near you. Truth is the best thing. And it's on. Yo, I once thought that I wanted to get Denver on track, but there's something more bigger than that. Something lurking, waiting to blow this state right off the map. A hidden agenda related to September. Doves carved up on the wall next to the highway. Up in the concrete, while rolling home next to where I stay. With state's destruction, Lockheed Martin malfunction. While NORAD's in a mountain anticipating our next move. My heart's jumping and I'm like, fuck waiting. While crooked taxes are burning a hole in my pocket. With $1 bill in the pyramid that's watching. Instead of having a capstone on top of it, they have an eye with a fast surprise while you're flossing it. Greedy niggas jocking it, politics plotting it. So who you vote for really doesn't mean shit. So save your energy from being drained by the enemy. Skull and bones of Freemasonry, envisioning dreams of them chasing me. Skull and bones of Freemasonry, envisioning dreams of them chasing me. Skull and bones of Freemasonry, secret agencies with a plan to dominate all of man. Check the records of DIA, strange murals and paintings similar to the ones next to the highway. With pyramids and flames underneath them looking like they're about to fly away. I can't be tripping, but it sounds like I'm on acid. Most people slipping, taken below DIA, held captive in the near future, where they won't hesitate to reinstate new laws for a bigger cause. I'm talking about established civilian concentration camps, introducing the military's labor programs. Expand your mind just a little bit, forget the little shit before you witness the belittlement of your people. Expand your mind just a little bit, forget the little shit before you witness the belittlement of your people.
Feds ain't stretching the truth, the script that he's spitting is true. Pay attention to what's going on or it might happen to you. When it's happening to cellular communication monitor, behavior studied and controlled through chemicals bombing nerves. This word of Jesus ain't got anything to do with it, religious cynic, where experiments cage and lace in terms of accepting limits. Things that can't explain to the sky when I'm in the Rockies. Chakra systems limited due to the voltage overhead pipe. Mind control victims, slap clips and machine guns for recess. FCC will help us speak less, manipulate us through weak feel right non-fiction with the CIA trying to kill me filthy. Talking about the underground facility at DIA, no one feel that place laced with hints. Notice whenever I return home, like some references in a New World Masonic capstone. Employ an Area 51 workers to build, and I don't mean to rant. In the face of an emergency, it doubles as a FEMA camp. Thought and reaction, solution, trickery, repeated through history. NORAD's listening in, using technology, tracking where you piss. I might be paranoid or just facing the fact. Better watch what you say, it's another day under the Patriot Act.
Extend your mind just a little bit, forget the little shit before you witness a little bit of your people. Extend your mind just a little bit, forget the little shit before you witness a little bit of your people.
The idea is to bring people to the point where they are helpless, passive, and unable to assert their own creative power to form anything else. Success for people like this is measured in terms of money, which they then translate into power. Corruption and violations of the Constitution. Secret societies, the push for one world government. I'd like to get corruption and violations of the Constitution. The idea is to bring people to the point where they are helpless, passive, and unable to assert their own creative power to form anything else.